2001, A Space Odyssey is a science fiction film directed by the great American filmmaker Stanley Kubrick. It is an adaptation of the book 2001, A Space Odyssey, written by Arthur C. Clarke, co-written with Stanley Kubrick. In 2001, A Space Odyssey is a film that shows and hides, gives and takes away, promises to reveal great secret of the universe and then reneges. This is a film of spectacular images developed slowly, contemplatively, even elegically. It has little dialogue, it shows more than it tells, and what it shows is not always what we think we see. The film is driven forward by an enigmatic force that begins with the dawn of man, conveyed through the story of apes in an African desert billions of years ago. The film illustrates this beginning sequence in an essay fashion by showing the consequences of the apes' discoveries. The enigma of the film begins at this point. The large black monolith appears before the apes, which we learn has created the faculty of curiosity in the apes, and which drives the will of mankind to search for the truth behind the black monolith. After the appearance of the monolith, one of the apes discovers how to use an animal bone as a weapon and tool. This resulting curiosity is what propels mankind toward their future on planet Earth. The film then brings the audience forward in time 4 million years to when man is successfully traveling in space. The discovery of the black monolith in Maclavia space brings the audience to the second act of the film. The mystery of the monolith grows even more during this act, when the sunlight strikes the monolith and a high-pitched radio signal is heard. This incident then guides us to the Jupiter mission. A spacecraft heads to Jupiter carrying 2 astronauts, Dr. David Bowman and Dr. Frank Poole. They travel with 3 other scientists in cryogenic hibernation. Most of the spacecraft is controlled by HAL 9000, a highly intelligent computer. Here the film poses a controversial question about the relationship between men and machines. What will happen when the machines stop listening to man?
Open the pod bay doors, please, Hal. Hello, Hal, do you read me? Hello, Hal, do you read me? Do you read me, Hal? Do you read me, Hal? Hello, Hal, do you read me? Oh, Hal, do you read me? Do you read me, Hal?
Affirmative, Dave. I read you.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
HAL's 2001's Great Enigma, a machine with intelligence and consciousness, a machine with feeling, in fact more feeling than any of the human characters inhabiting the film.
Dave. My mind is going. I can feel it. I can feel it.
Kubrick began filming 2001 at the end of 1965 during the period space race of the Cold War, a 20th century technological and military competition between rival nations Soviet Union, USSR, and the United States.
Sorry, Dr. Smyslov, but I'm really not at liberty to discuss this.
Understand?
The space race promoted major propaganda. Every possible value was assigned to the race. It was said to be advancing science, education, the economy, philosophy, manhood, and so on. Many saw naked interest through these smoke screens, however. In the 1960s, as the Apollo mission swung closer to a moon landing, 2001 spoiled the impact of the landing for us all. More realistic than reality itself, and certainly more dramatic, the film depicted man's venture into space with a rich mix of mythological illusions. It combined science and technology with philosophy, anthropology, and religion in ways that were unthinkable. Stanley Kubrick became fascinated by the possibility of extraterrestrial life. Starting with this project with Arthur C. Clarke, the main idea behind it is to convey man's relationship to the universe. Kubrick's films can race through time or reveal it in all its leaden deliberateness. Indeed, throughout 2001, Kubrick subjects his audience to an unprecedented experience of time elasticity. Stanley Kubrick uses the sound of breathing as well as an absence of dialogue and music to slow down the perception of time and give the audience a pure sensation of time as an incremental progression. The sound design of 2001 is very purposeful from the outset. Stanley Kubrick selects one particular sound at a time to tell the story. The film begins with a black screen and Georgi Light's orchestral work entitled Atmospheres. The black screen combined with Light's atmospheres announces both the weight and abstraction of what we are going to see. Darkness inspires the imagination. The music draws us in and reminds us of the mysterious power of the monolith. In this way, Kubrick puts elements of the film's ending in the beginning. We are with Dave Bowman in the monolith, and therefore everything we are going to see is contained within the flashback of Star Child. Kubrick's comparison of 2001 to the mystic smile of the Mona Lisa also work well with the musical interpretations which grow, but which are, as the film itself, open to everyone's subjective experience. Kubrick believed that a film needed to remain remote from explicit statements and rely on the medium itself. He uses the audience's thrill of surprise and discovery to reinforce his ideas rather than reinforce them through plot points. As an auteur, Kubrick wanted to control all components of his filmmaking, including the music. This put him, the director, in the position of absolute author among the many roles he was performing: screenwriter, editor, set designer, and music selector. When 2001 was released, the film received mixed reviews from the critics. Some of the MGM board even walked out of the theater during the first screening of the film. The movie is so completely absorbed in its own problems, its use of color and space, its fanatical devotion to science fiction detail, that it is somewhere between hypnotic and immensely boring. Renata Adler, The New York Times, 1968. There were many good reviews for the film as well. American film critic and historian Roger Ebert praised 2001 in Chicago Sun-Times in his 1968 column. Only a few films are transcendent and work upon our minds and imaginations like music or prayer or a vast belittling landscape. Alone among science fiction movies, 2001 is not concerned with thrilling us, but with inspiring our awe. Stanley Kubrick truly believed that illumination was the central purpose of the film. He said of 2001, A Space Odyssey, on the deepest psychological level, the film's plot symbolized the search for God, and it finally postulates what is little less than a scientific definition of God. Elaborating upon this, he remarked that it was, however, not any traditional, anthropomorphic image of God. He recognized that space travel is nothing less than a voyage into time, into the future and into the past, toward the end times and back to creation. 2001, A Space Odyssey is the ultimate trip of mankind. This film is like a question about life to which we have no final answer except for the questions we ask. But it also reminds us that our actions have consequences.
It's called Daisy. 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 Give me your answer, do. I'm half crazy, all for the love of you. It won't be a style.